What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Travis. Of course, you are watching TWA Motorsports, and in today's video, I thought we would get a couple things accomplished. I'm gonna test fit these headers that I talked about in the last video down here, which means I'm gonna have to hook up my cherry picker because, guys, I had to almost knock those things past where they're at right there. So we're gonna have to try to snake those out of there. I just don't think without taking that motor mount loose on this side, I'm going to be able to get that thing out of there. So that is the plan there. I need to get the cherry picker hooked up in the center, kind of lift it up a little bit, get that bolt out of there. Okay, so after we get these fit, which like I said, I think they're going to fit, and I'll show you why I think that here in just a minute. But we're then going to go over and see if we can take all the stuff off of that LS1 that's on the engine stand, because as I had stated also in that video, that is the motor that I plan to use in this car eventually. So we need to get everything off of it, and I would like to get it cleaned up. Now, I don't think I'll get to that today because the shop is cold. I'm actually going to show you outside here in just a second, but the shop is pretty cold today, and I'm going to use my steam cleaner on that. And when I use steam in a cold environment, it makes a big mess, and it smokes up the shop. But check this out, guys. This is what I'm dealing with weather-wise right now. We got about 6 inches of snow day before yesterday, or actually, yeah, well, technically the night before last. And this is what we're dealing with right now. So nice and bright out there. But good news is we got the sun out, and we're supposed to have some 40-degree temperatures, so hopefully that snow won't stick around long. But that is what we were dealing with. Let's get the cherry picker hooked up. Let's see if we can lift this thing up a little bit and get that header out. Maybe a little easier said than done. I forced this in here, and I shouldn't have. I thought maybe once I got it up in there, this is where we're having the clearance issue, as you can see. So I'm sitting here thinking, I may not be able to get that bolt out. It may be easier to take the steering box off, but we're gonna give it a shot. It's a three-quarter inch bolt there. I just need to tilt the engine over a little bit to clear the head bolt. That's the only thing that's holding it. See the head bolt right there? It's hitting on the flange, and that's what I had to knock it past. Just can't, for some reason, get it back off of there, which is great. But we'll keep working on it. We'll see if we can ever get that thing back in, but I got the bolt out, so now the header comes out nice and easy. So let's thread that thing out of there. And we'll probably just leave it unhooked for now. I want to show you guys the difference between what I bought and I think is going to work versus what we have here that obviously isn't. So our whole problem with this header here was that secondary primary tube. And I want you to look at the new ones that I got. See how further in this one's pushed? And the reason for that is to clear the steering box. You guys can see that. Let's see if I can get them side by side here. Okay, see that second primary tube, how far it sticks out on the first one versus the new ones that I got. Like I said, that is supposed to clear steering boxes. I bought these for a first gen Camaro, so like 67 to 69 Camaro, because they have their steering box in a similar location. So let's see if I can push them in from the top, which I doubt. If not, we'll thread them through from the bottom like I did the last one. Well, here you have it. These don't fit either. I thought I'd get lucky. I wanted a set of long tubes for this thing. I wanted stainless. I'm gonna have to have a buddy of mine chop on these and make these work. There's just no way around it. Just a bummer. Here's what you can see here. While I think the piece that I was concerned about is gonna clear, and they're probably gonna fall out of there here in a second. The problem with this header is this pipe now is hitting on the motor mount. See that? Whereas this one has a long sweep to it. See how it comes back? That one goes down. And so because of that, I don't have the clearance I need on the engine mount. So one of two things can happen. I can use these headers on something else and have those chopped up just to fix the issue that I need, which probably makes the most sense. These here, however, may be able to be used on the truck back there because it has a little more clearance because the steering box is up front as opposed to back here. So I may just do it that way, honestly. I can have my buddy, it'd probably be easier for him to make this transition smaller, like cut this bend down and take this portion out. Or I can have him clock this front piece a little differently. So it's a fail on my end. Look, these said specifically they worked on the Camaro, but the Camaro and the Tri-5 on their shorty header was the same, but I wanted a long tube. So anyway, failure on my part. I guess what I'm going to do for now is I'm going to take that header out and we're going to move on to the engine. Now the original like Fbody setup here is just not going to work. Just for clearance reasons. Obviously the AC unit's not going to work down there. That's going to be relatively close to the frame. So what we're wanting to do is upgrade to a different front cover and water pump and timing, well, not timing set, I guess you'd say, but basically the whole front drive accessory wanted to upgrade to something different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to snap a couple pictures of this and I'm going to list it for sale, because I assume at some point somebody will probably be interested in buying something like this. A lot of people use this setup on their LS swaps, because you can move this over to like a 5.3 or a 6 liter or whatever you want, and the Fbody front drive accessories are pretty popular. So I'm just going to take this off, I'm going to list it for sale and try to bag up all my bolts and we'll go from there. I was going to start with the one that makes the biggest mess, which will be this guy, but I think we're going to start with the alternator, because one of my bolts for the water pump is behind this pulley, and I'd rather just take this all off as one unit. So for the water pump, the early LS's had, of course, you have two bolts that are holding the alternator on. You got a bracket here, and then there's another bracket that a lot of people don't use, which is the one in the back here. But these should all be, this is a 10 millimeter, but these should be 15s on the rest of them. So let's take this, and this 15 loose, and that should knock our alternator out of the way. Now that we got that one out of the way, let's go ahead, get the water pump. Even though it's going to make a ginormous mess, guys, there's going to be coolant in there. You can see I've kind of blocked off here, but you have 6 10 millimeters that hold your water pump to the block. That wasn't nearly as much water as I thought it'd be. It did drip a little, but the AC unit, guys, I already took this off because a buddy of mine needed it to try on a car he was swapping. So these bolts are already loose. These are 13s, I believe. So it's pretty much off, to be honest with you. Let's get it out of the way, and then we will work on the power steering pump, which is a little hard because I do not have the pulley with the hole in it. Another thing I don't like about the Fbodies. I'll show you kind of what I've made in the past to address that concern, but yeah, it's a little bit of a pain when you can't take the pump off. You have to press the pump off, or the pulley off, in order to get to the bolts behind it. But I'll show you a trick that I have. So believe it or not, I've done several of these motor swaps in the vehicle. So what happens is there's 3 bolts, 15s, that hold on the front or the bracket basically that holds the power steering pump in place. You've got one here, you've got one that's kind of hidden right here, and then you've got one back behind, and you can barely see it. See that guy right there? So what I've done is I went to a local parts store a long time ago and bought a cheap 15 millimeter wrench, and I shaved it down. You can see how small it is, and the reason I did that is you can fit it behind here and loosen that up. Now the downside is you kind of got to loosen it up as you go, because the bolt is going to stay in there. Okay, so you can only go so far until you're going to have to take this one out and the other one. But it's kind of a chore, but it can be done relatively easy, just time consuming. Now that we got that out of place, we need to get the balancer off, which is always a fun task. Sometimes my impact feels strong. It'll knock that thing out of there. Sometimes it doesn't feel so strong, and we really got to crank on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit it with a 24 millimeter. Let's see if we can get it loose. If we can get it loose, that's great. If not, we're going to have to pull the starter off eventually anyway. 13 millimeters, and put the flywheel locking tool in there and actually crank hard on this thing. All right, place your bets. Let's see where our battery's at on this thing. Oh, we got a full battery. Let's see what happens. Negative. Sometimes you can tighten, then loosen. Not gonna happen, guys. All right, new plan. Let's take the starter out. 2 13s. Okay, it's actually the second time I've screwed this up. I took the flywheel off this, so I can't use the flywheel locking tool because I don't have a flywheel to lock it to. So I'm gonna see, surely I have a flex plate or something out here, because guys, I sold the transmission and the flywheel, flex plate, clutch, I sold all that. I've got to find something here in the shop to thread in there, and yeah, then we can hook our flywheel locking tool up, which isn't a big deal because eventually we're going to be putting a different flex, we'll be putting a flex plate on it, I suppose, because it's going to have an automatic behind it. But let me see if I can find something here in the shop. I think I have ample room with this adapter to get it up in there. I've done this before. I screwed this up before, believe it or not. But yeah, I probably should have cracked that loose while it was in the car. Found one. And I locked it down with just three bolts out of the 6. And then you can see I've got my flywheel locking tool in there. Guys, these come in super handy. So now, let's see if we can loosen that up by hand. I've got a big breaker bar right here. Generally, that's what it takes. Works like a charm every time, guys. Now that we got that bolt out, let's grab our puller and see if we can get that balancer out of place. And then we're getting really close to being finished up. The only other thing I think I want to take off is I want to take off the motor mounts. But this puller works best on the factory GM pulley, in my opinion. So obviously goes in and hooks on these little jaws here. And it's not a bad idea to put a little oil on this guy while you're doing this. Man, that went quick. I generally don't use my impact to do that, but I think it's fine. Next and last, I guess, before we do some cleanup, obviously I got a mess from the water pump and the power steering pump. I want to clean up and get that all off the floor, but we've got 13 millimeters that hold the actual motor mount to the vehicle, or to the block, sorry, and we need to get those off on both sides. Now this other side has a heat shield that has a couple 10 millimeters we got to get out of the way first, but you're going to need a deep 13 for this. Well, I probably should have done this after, but I got everything cleaned up, got both the motor mounts off, as you can see. And you're probably wondering about the coil packs. Well, I think I'm probably going to keep the engine closed. I could take the coil packs off, but I'm going to keep that closed up until we're ready to start the cleaning process on this thing. You could see, so basically what we're going to be doing is, other than cleaning, we're going to get all this junk off the motor. I'm going to reseal it. So we're going to put a new oil pan gasket in it, new rear main, new front timing cover gasket. I'm going to reseal the valve covers because they're leaking. So basically just a reseal and a cleanup, and then we're going to do a little painting on the block. But I do want to take the oil out of this thing. Holy cow, it is in there, guys. Somebody must have put this in with an impact. All right, so let's get the oil drain. I'm gonna probably let this set. You know what I need? I need a block of wood or something to go across the bottom to make that level. Maybe I'll use that guy. I wonder how dirty the oil is in this thing. Probably pretty dirty. I wonder if I'm gonna hit my pan also. Oof, yeah, it's pretty dirty. Good night. That is nowhere near the correct amount. Of course, it's really cold out here, so it's coming out slow, but I think we're okay. I think this thing just had a rough life. I'm gonna go grab my filter wrench, and I'd like to let this thing just drain over the next few days. One thing I love about this, guys, look at that. Tilting it, see if we can get more of this to drain out. I'm gonna leave it set here for several days and see if we can get that accomplished. But like I said, it's a little too cold out here to use a steam cleaner on this thing. Probably use a lot of brake clean, a lot of steam cleaning, just to get, like, I can use brake clean on a lot of this stuff. I'm gonna have to cap these off. I'm gonna leave the spark plugs in until I get the head clean. So we're gonna kind of work our way top down. It's not terrible over here. You can see this side's halfway clean, to be honest with you. It's not the worst one I've ever seen. This is very common from the leak in the front, driving down the road, just kind of splashing back to back. So that's not, it's not as bad as the one that I did that came out of the Trans Am, or at least it doesn't seem that way. And then what I may do after I get all this clean is I may go ahead and swap this motor out for the one that's actually in the car. I don't know, we'll just have to see. But anyway, I wanted the headers to fit, guys. I'm really bummed about that, but like I said, we can probably use those on the 52 pickup when we do the LS swap in it. And so it's not like they're just gonna sit here and not get used. So at some point, but the other thing though, I was talking about, if I can get that one cleaned up and swap it out for this, then I can go ahead and test fit this motor in the 52. So we can kind of be doing multiple projects, which is obviously what we do out here. So anyway, hopefully you guys did enjoy the motor teardown, or more of the motor disassembly, me flubbing up purchasing headers, and hopefully you guys are excited to see this 55 on the road at some point. We've got a lot going on out here, so we're just gonna chip away, maybe bouncing around from project to project, but this is what I had to work on today. If you did enjoy this video, guys, please, like always, smash that thumbs up button. If you are not subscribed, go down, hit the subscribe, ring that bell notification. That will notify you every single time we drop a new video on this or anything else. Stay tuned to see what we work on next.